You understand English perfectly, until someone suddenly looks at you and says, "Can you speak in English?" And in that exact moment, your mind goes blank. The words disappear. Your heartbeat changes. You start translating in your head. Simple sentences suddenly feel impossible. And the worst part, you know you're smarter than how you sound. So, why does this happen? Why do intelligent people suddenly freeze while speaking English? Today, you're going to discover the real reason. And once you understand this, you will never look at fluency the same way again. There's a silent pain that millions of English learners never talk about. It's not grammar. It's not vocabulary. It's humiliation. That feeling when you rehearse a sentence perfectly in your mind, but the moment you try to say it out loud, everything collapses. You suddenly become hyper-aware of yourself, your pronunciation, your mistakes, your accent, your pauses. And then something strange happens. Your brain stops helping you and starts attacking you. Don't make mistakes. Speak correctly. What if they laugh? What if I sound stupid? So instead of communicating, you panic. And most people think this means, my English is weak. But no, that is not the real problem. The real problem is psychological pressure. Your brain is entering survival mode, and survival mode destroys fluency. Think about it. Have you ever noticed? Sometimes you can speak English alone perfectly. Maybe while watching movies. Maybe while singing songs. Maybe while talking to yourself. But in front of real people, you freeze. Why? Because fluency changes when fear enters the room. This is the part nobody explains. When you become nervous, your brain shifts energy away from communication. It focuses on protection. That's why you suddenly forget words you already know. Not because your English disappeared, but because anxiety interrupted access to it. This is why some people with basic English speak confidently, while others with advanced English stay silent. Confidence affects memory recall. Confidence affects sentence formation. Confidence affects speaking speed. And the more pressure you feel, the slower your brain becomes. Now here's something even deeper. Most English learners are not afraid of speaking English. They're afraid of judgment. Read that again. They are afraid of looking unintelligent. That's why perfectionism becomes dangerous. Because perfectionism sounds productive, but secretly, it destroys fluency. You start believing, if my English is not perfect, I should stay quiet. So your brain develops a habit. Silence becomes safety. And over time, your fear grows stronger than your voice. This is why some people study English for years, yet still panic during simple conversations. Not because they're incapable, but because they trained their brain to fear mistakes. And fear creates hesitation. Hesitation creates overthinking. Overthinking creates freezing. This is the cycle. But here's the beautiful part. This cycle can be broken completely. The moment you stop treating English like a test and start treating it like communication, everything changes. Because fluency is not about speaking perfectly. It's about staying relaxed long enough for your real knowledge to come out. That's the secret. Relaxed brains speak better, not perfect brains. And once you understand this, you stop fighting yourself. You stop trying to sound impressive. You stop chasing impossible perfection. Instead, you start building something much more powerful. Speaking courage. Now let me show you how. The first thing you must do is stop translating in your head. This habit destroys speed. Here's what happens. Someone asks you a question in English. Your brain hears it in English, translates it into your native language, creates a response, then translates it back into English. Of course you freeze. Your brain is doing double work under pressure. Instead, retrain yourself to respond with simple English thoughts. Not perfect thoughts. Simple thoughts. For example, instead of trying to say, currently, I am experiencing a little exhaustion due to workload, just say, I'm tired today because of work. Simple language creates fast communication. And fast communication builds confidence. Remember, native speakers do not speak like textbooks. They speak naturally. The second thing, you must normalize mistakes. This changes everything psychologically. Because most learners treat mistakes like danger. But confident speakers treat mistakes like movement. Think about children. Why do kids learn languages faster? Because they are not ashamed of sounding wrong. They speak badly again and again until fluency arrives. Adults do the opposite. They wait to become perfect before speaking, and that moment never comes. So start doing this. Speak even when your sentence feels messy. Your goal is not perfection. Your goal is momentum. Because speaking confidence is built through survived embarrassment, not avoided embarrassment. The third thing is extremely powerful. Slow down your speaking speed. Most learners panic because they try to sound fluent too quickly. So their brain crashes. Listen carefully. Confidence sounds calm, not fast. When you slow down, your breathing improves. When your breathing improves, your thinking improves. And suddenly, your sentences become clearer. Powerful speakers pause naturally. They don't rush to prove intelligence. So stop racing. Speaking English is not a performance. It's a connection. Now here's another deep truth nobody tells you. Your identity affects your fluency. If deep inside you believe, my English is bad, your brain behaves accordingly. Because the brain always tries to protect your identity. So every time you say, I can't speak English, your mind collects evidence to prove it true. But the moment your identity changes, your behavior changes too. Start saying, I am becoming someone who speaks confidently. That sentence matters. Because confidence starts psychologically, before it appears verbally. And slowly, your brain begins adapting to this new version of you. Not overnight, but day by day, sentence by sentence, conversation by conversation. And one day, you notice something shocking. You're no longer panicking. You're expressing yourself. That's the transformation, not perfect English. Freedom. Freedom to speak without fear. Freedom to make mistakes without shame. Freedom to sound human. Because real fluency is emotional, not just linguistic. And honestly, some of the most unforgettable speakers in the world are not perfect English speakers. But people listen to them anyway. Why? Because confidence is more attractive than perfection. And now think about your own life. How many opportunities have you avoided because of fear? How many conversations? How many chances? How many moments of connection? All because you believed silence was safer than mistakes. But silence has a cost too, a very painful one. It slowly convinces you that your voice doesn't deserve space. And that is a lie. Your voice deserves to be heard. Even if it shakes. Even if it pauses. Even if it's imperfect. Because every confident English speaker you admire today is once nervous too. They also froze. They also forgot words. They also felt embarrassed. But they kept speaking anyway, and that changed everything. So from today, stop measuring your English only by accuracy. Measure it by courage. Did you speak today? Did you try today? Did you survive the discomfort today? That is progress. Because every time you speak despite fear, your brain learns something powerful. This situation is not dangerous anymore. And little by little, the panic disappears. This is exactly how confidence is built. Not through motivation videos, not through memorizing thousands of words, not through waiting for the perfect time. Confidence is built through repeated emotional exposure. In simple words, your brain becomes calm when it realizes you survived speaking. Again, and again, and again. That's why consistency beats intensity. 10 minutes of speaking daily is more powerful than studying silently for 5 hours. Because fluency is not a knowledge problem anymore. It's a nervous system problem. And nervous systems change through experience. Now, let me tell you something most people never realize. The reason English feels difficult is not because English is difficult. It feels difficult because you are trying to protect your image while speaking it. You want to sound smart, correct, impressive. But communication becomes easier the moment you stop performing. Look at confident people carefully. They don't try to sound perfect every second. They focus on expressing emotion, connection, energy, meaning. That's what real communication is. And ironically, the less obsessed you become with perfection, the more natural your English starts sounding. because relaxed people speak better. This is why some learners suddenly become fluent after traveling abroad. Not because they magically learned thousands of new words overnight. No, because survival forced them to stop overthinking. They stopped performing and started communicating. That's the breakthrough. Now I want you to imagine something. Imagine a future version of yourself. You enter a room. Someone speaks English to you. And this time, you don't panic. You don't translate every sentence. You don't mentally apologize for your accent. You simply respond, calmly, naturally, confidently. Not because your English became perfect, but because your fear became smaller. That future is possible. Much closer than you think. But only if you stop treating mistakes like enemies. Mistakes are evidence that you are entering a new identity. Every broken sentence is proof that you are growing. Every awkward conversation is training. Every uncomfortable moment is rewiring your brain, and one day, the thing that once terrified you becomes normal. That's how transformation works, quietly, gradually, then suddenly. Now, here's one of the biggest mindset shifts that changed thousands of learners. Stop saying, "I want to speak English fluently." Start saying, "I want to become someone who is comfortable expressing themselves." Do you see the difference? The first goal creates pressure. The second goal creates freedom. Because language is not about perfection. It's about self-expression. And people can feel that energy. Think about the conversations you remember most in life. Were they perfect? Probably not. But they felt real, human, alive. That's what people connect with. Not robotic perfection. And this is exactly why your personality matters more than perfect grammar. A confident, imperfect speaker will always communicate better than a silent, perfect learner. Always. So stop hiding behind preparation forever. There are people with less vocabulary than you, less grammar than you, less knowledge than you, who speak more confidently simply because they gave themselves permission to be imperfect. That permission changes everything. Now listen carefully to this part, because this may be the sentence that changes your mindset forever. You are not becoming fluent by studying English. You become fluent by surviving English. Surviving the awkwardness. Surviving the pauses. Surviving the embarrassment. Surviving the fear of judgment. That is the real training. And every time you continue speaking despite discomfort, you become mentally stronger. Eventually, English stops feeling like a foreign language and starts feeling like a part of you. That's the moment your identity shifts. Not when your grammar becomes perfect, but when your fear no longer controls your voice. And honestly, that moment feels powerful. Because for the first time, you realize something beautiful. You were never bad at English. You were just afraid of mistakes, afraid of judgment, afraid of embarrassment. But fear is not permanent. Fear is trainable, and confidence is trainable too. Which means your future fluency is not decided by talent. It's decided by repetition, daily courage, and emotional resilience. So the next time your mind goes blank while speaking English, don't say, "My English is terrible." Instead say, "My brain is nervous, but I'm still speaking." That sentence alone changes the entire experience. Because now you're no longer fighting yourself. You're helping yourself. And maybe that is the real beginning of fluency. Not perfect pronunciation, not advanced vocabulary, but self-trust, the ability to stay calm enough to let your real voice come out. And once your real voice comes out, people don't just hear your English. They hear you. And that changes everything.